Learning how to touch and move babies. I know everybody thinks you're here to learn movement lesson. That's training. You're going to go into a training program. It's 4 segments. You're here to learn how to work with movement. Whether it's the milestone, whether it's the moment, all babies need to be checked for movements. I really just had a wonderful experience this weekend. I literally got off the plane at 10 o'clock in the morning, went right to my granddaughter's birthday party, and a baby came in, 1 year old, just turned 1. And my radar goes off. I'm like, what's with the baby? Now, not everybody knows me. They should. But, how do I approach somebody saying, your child's in trouble? So I've got to find out a way that I'm going to work with this baby and on the spot and not insult the parents, because nobody wants to know or nobody wants help. I'm not there to tell you that there's something wrong with the baby. However, when I'm telling you there's something wrong with the baby, there's something wrong with the baby. You got to listen. But people, I think, are afraid to come to me because they're like, oh, Michelle's just going to tell me what's wrong. No, Michelle's going to tell you how to help you. I don't tell you what's wrong. I tell you how to help. Everything here is about solutions. If you don't think that, but when I'm telling you to do a course, I mean it to do a course. If I'm telling you to work on breathing, this is what you've got to work on. I've just done countless of thousands of hours on people, and we have to, in a sense, save the babies. So when you're looking at the video, and I've got to learn how to, I don't know what the software is where you can talk into the picture. So, when you're looking at these lives, go back to the video that I'm talking about. So I'm talking about where they're opening the eyes of this baby. I'm like, well, there goes speech and feeding. But when I worked with this baby, so thank goodness the dad actually knew about me through family members. And he's like, oh, I've been dying for you to, yeah, well, dude, I know you've been dying for me, but it's been a year. NICU baby, 7 weeks premature, oh, but they're army crawling. And, within 20 minutes, the child's up on its knees and going into boxes, and they're just like, what? I'm like, guys, I can't change neuromuscular development within 20 minutes. It's about functional movement. You put functional movement into a child, and you really sometimes have to put it in. If they can't initiate the movement, they're not going to be like, gosh, this crawling thing, I think I'm supposed to do it this way. It doesn't work that way. They go into deviations. They get very creative. Now, there was nothing wrong cognitively with this baby, but because of its birth experience, and what do I always say? If you don't breathe properly on birth, I'm going to tell you, you're going to have to need some form of intervention to get walking. If you can't oppose gravity and breath, which is the easiest way to perform opposing gravity, and that's the last thing to go as we die, is the breath factor because of that. But you're not going to get it without certain form of intervention or assistance, whatever you want to call it, therapy, in vertical. If you can't oppose gravity, if your brain doesn't organize, and that's going to be our podcast today, is stress and organization, because the body needs it. The body needs it for movement. So when they're looking at this newborn baby and the one eye is still shut, now they could have worked on rotational movement, just this nice little thing to get the eye to open. But instead, first of all, nobody's noticing there's a lead on the baby. So the baby already has issues. There's weight on the baby. That shouldn't be. You're holding the baby too tight, and you're just doing this, and you're pulling, and the baby is repelling. No baby should learn the art of repel right at the beginning. What do we do for speech and feeding? We go forward. We go to our corner of the cobs. We go to our fingers. We go to our mouth, and we don't go away. And the fact that this child's learned to have that experience at this stage. Now, I'm not saying that someone doesn't do something bad to you and you're like, hey, don't touch me like that. But for a newborn baby to have them have that kind of experience in movement and touch, but also too, that suck goes back, that bolus, you're really messing up some key interventions or organization techniques of early movement and development. Is not the experience the baby is meant to have. Leads. IVs, and actually Erin's baby's still in the hospital right now. She just had her baby a week ago. So we're actually going to do a Zoom interview because again, the what their expectations for her child versus again that she's right on it with movement lesson, you know, that they're already saying should have been genetics, and even the doctors are like, what are you doing? You know, the baby shouldn't be doing this because your baby's here. And so we're going to be covering that. But guys, you don't understand these little things that happen in the hospital that you never see, like something like that they're just poking your baby and opening eyes like that. Or the other one that I mentioned with phototherapy, I'm like, well, there goes midline. I get it, the baby had jaundice. We need to save the baby during the medical setting, but the medical setting is not there for your future short and long-term developments. So just having that whole phototherapy and then the baby's positioned like that, guess what? If they're hungry, nope, they're in phototherapy. So they learn to just curl up because they've got this weighted thing on their heads. It's going to affect your development. Now you might say, well, my baby had phototherapy and it didn't do it. Well, your baby probably just had gauze patches over there and it was different. But now that they're putting more and more of these helmets, all your developmental milestones comes before that the whole head closes with the sutures. You're not meant to have cranial immobility at that stage of life. And again, you're not meant to have jaundice. We've got to take care and save the baby from jaundice. But we then have to make sure that they're available for movement, for optimal movement, so they can function and go into their developments. So it's these little things that are give and takes, but there's more and more of the you know, medical and so forth like this doing to your baby that just shouldn't be done. We have to be more aware. And when you don't know what's going on, when you do the newborn movement assessment, you'll start picking those things up. That's what my fingers do. These 10 fingers are way more intelligent than this is for a reason, because I've just felt up so many nervous systems. And I know, you know, like I can just like, I worked on a little munchkin last week, trach and all that. I get it that most people would say hardcore severity, you know, let's just get him breathing better. He started talking, he started doing all these kind of things and moving, but most of his complications were from hospital. The second I touched him, I'm like, oh, he's been revived. Because I could feel the chest compressions, but the chest was still, the oxygen was way out of the ribs, way too much, because someone did chest compressions on this baby. Again, we had to save his life. But you just don't realize how much stuff goes on with your baby that's out of your control, out of your baby's control, that's going to affect their development. I would say, well, again, when I say, and I mean it, more than 2 days in the NICU, they need to get involved with this work. We have practitioners around the world, like Yale, who's on right now. You know, I'm trying to do it all that it's available, but please, 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 just because you're breathing, right? Your baby's breathing and can look at you, it doesn't mean that they are going into functional movements, right? And this is what we have to make sure they're initiated. If you read any bloody book on babies, eating, pooing, and sleeping, you can go to the doctors at 1 month old. Oh, so you're putting it in the car seat? Well, great. Oh, immobility for your child. I'm not saying don't use a car seat, but guys, we need to, if you're that important to make sure your car seat's installed properly, then it has to be that important that you're working on child's development. It's just, and it's fun. It's loving. We got so many courses and so many videos, and I know you're going, I don't know where to start. You gotta start. Pick one and start. But I'm really getting, I get it that these reels get shared and people go, oh, cute little baby, look, they're opening their eyes. Guys, just because an eye is open doesn't mean it worked on development for the baby. And again, I shouldn't be walking into a family party where people know about me. And at the same time, I'm like, oh, what's going on? The child had no midline crossing. She couldn't talk. She starts in 20 minutes. He's like, bah, 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 and babbling. They're like, she's talking, she's doing, yeah, because she can move. Right? When movement happens, when the function of movement happens, the cognitive gains that your baby gets is exponential, right? The speech and language and all that. But if you can't function, you can't talk. It's no difference for us. If we're in a situation of panic and dismay and we can't function, you know, our vocabulary goes down to, and that's what happens. And that's why, again, so the podcast today is going to be on stress and organization. But please, guys, we've got to look at what happened, what might have happened. We don't know what happened. Again, you fell down when you were 18 months. Your mom came in and found you crying, oh, my baby. But she didn't turn around and do a newborn movement assessment. I get it. But at the same time, too, our babies are really going into a panic mode as far as their development. And it's just got to stop with us. Thanks. Morning, yeah.